West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
Good morning. Let me welcome you all to West Hill this morning, whether you're in the hall in Scarborough or anywhere else in the world. And I know that we do have people from so many places who gather here every Sunday. It's wonderful to be with you. Let's begin with the land acknowledgement. West Hill United is located in Treaty 20 and in the area of the Williams Treaties of 1923. These are the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and were previously occupied by the Seneca and Huron-Wendat First Nations. Please take a moment to look towards the two-row banner, which is displayed in our meeting hall. It was purposely designed and chosen by our congregation because it is based on the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, which is a mutual treaty agreement made in 1613 between representatives of the 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee and representatives of the Dutch government in what is now upstate New York. It is one of the oldest treaty relationships between the Haudenosaunee, the original people of Turtle Island, that we call North America, and European immigrants. The treaty acknowledges the agreement between the two nations who will live side by side in a relationship of peace, friendship, respect, and non-interference for as long as the water flows downhill, the grass grows green, and the sun rises in the east and sets in the west.
Now, we usually, at the end of a perspective, we have a time of reflection. But this morning, I would like to try to start with a time of reflection. And we're going to do a visualization exercise. This visualization, it comes from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but I've adapted it so it better fits our setting today. This visualization, it involves imagining a funeral, our own funeral. And I know it might sound heavy. I just want to communicate that well. I get it can sound heavy. But in this visualization, we're not really here to focus on death. We're here to focus on life, on the kind of person we want to be in the right here, right now. The character that we want to live with while we're here. The funeral visualization that we're going to do is just a way to cut through the noise and to ask the question clearly of how do I want to live and how do I need to live? So if you're willing, I invite you to just settle in this morning. Clear the space in your mind. Maybe close your eyes if you want. No falling asleep, of course, unless you really need a nap. Which now that I mention it, that sounds all right. So I'm actually at a camp working this week. And so yeah, maybe a nap wouldn't be too bad. But close your eyes if you want, settle in. And please visualize the following alongside me. In your mind's eye, see yourself going to the funeral of a loved one. Imagine yourself driving to the place where the service is being held. You park the car, you get out. And as you walk inside, you notice the flowers. The soft music playing. You see faces of friends and family as you enter. You can feel the shared sorrow of losing someone, as well as the joy of having known them. Then, as you walk down to the front of the room and you look inside the casket, you come face to face with a familiar face, yourself. This is your funeral. As you take a seat and you wait for the service to begin, you look at the program that's in your hand. There's going to be 4 speakers. The first is someone from your family. The second speaker is one of your friends, somebody who can give a sense of what you were as a person. The third speaker is from your work or your profession. And the fourth is from a community organization, perhaps something like West Hill. Now think deeply. What would you like each of these speakers to say about the kind of person you were? What would you like their words to reflect? Maybe what kind of family member you were? Or what kind of friend? What kind of work associate? What character would you like them to have seen in you? Who are you at your core? I want to be careful. I'm not talking about, lists of things that you accomplished necessarily, but who you were. What would you want them to admire most about the kind of person that you became? Imagine the people at the funeral, as well as those who've already passed on. What difference would you have liked to have made in their life, as well as your own? Sit with that for a second. And as you do, I want to say, I think what this exercise is ultimately helping us do is to see the bigger picture, to aim to get clear on what we really want and need to be, what we need on what really matters when it's all said and done. So as you continue thinking about this, before we go any further, I want to give us just a few minutes to sit with that question in silence. I have a picture here of this vehicle going down the road. And here at West Hill, we come together to be connected on this path together. The truth is, we don't know exactly, what's going to happen. That's the difficulty of an exercise like this. And that's why I try to focus on not what's going to happen in the end, but really the kind of person that we are as we're on the path together. And here at West Hill, I really do think that we want the best for one another, the best path. A few weeks ago, when we introduced the subject of courage, it was set up in a way that I talked about how there's been different philosophers throughout the ages who've talked about what is it that we're ultimately after. In Latin, it's summum bonum, and the Greek philosophy, it's this word eudaimonia, and it's this most ultimate thing. And I won't go into the depths of the argument, but I just want to say it's been phrased in different ways, such as well-being or satisfaction, or in modern day, a word that's used a lot is flourishing by positive psychology, Martin Seligman. What we want is we want it to be well. We want a good life. And I think that's ultimately what we are after. Now, sometimes, of course, we take paths that aren't always the best. That might be shortcuts. They might seem good in the here and now, but they can cause more pain later on. We're on this path together. And as I said a few weeks ago, I think that this path, the best way, is a path of love. In Greek philosophy, their idea was to live with virtue gave you the highest chance, not saying a guarantee of the best life possible, but the highest chance to live with virtue. And I like to translate that in a more modern way of, as we say, to be guided by love. Be on a path of good, of love, of compassion. And then to use wisdom, to use maps that others have left, who have developed, who have thought about this, as well as our own experience. But then I said a few weeks ago, what if we had all of that, but the car didn't move? The car stayed stuck. Or maybe it moved a little, but maybe not at the pace that it could. That's why we need courage. To me, courage, it's love in action. It's choosing to take the path. Now, this morning, I want to talk a little bit of both about the big and the small. It can be helpful to take courage with the small steps if we know the overall path. I mean, imagine if you just didn't know what the path would have, what might be happening. Now, at the same time, imagine if you had completely all the path figured out, every curve in the bend. It might take away a little bit of that sense of adventure. So overall, it's about realizing the kind of person that we want to be. We can't predict all the different events or all the different circumstances. The truth is, sometimes that path changes. A storm happens and we have to detour. Life happens and we have to forge a new way. But we can still say at the end of the day, this is the kind of person that I want to be. And the truth of the matter is, there's been moments in my life where I've had to ask myself that question. When it's all said and done, what kind of person do I want to be? When it's all said and done, what kind of needs do I want to have taken care of for myself and for others? Another way I'll phrase it, when it's all said and done, how could I have loved the best that I can? I think what that does is it puts things into perspective. On the slides here, I'm going to share 3 different things of how aiming to see the bigger picture can help with the small everyday. The first here, getting started. When we're clear on the bigger picture, as I've said, we can know which way to move rather than staying stuck. Now, I also want to say, sometimes it doesn't mean that we have to have it all figured out. Sometimes it's just, what can I do today? Sometimes I've even narrowed it down to even just, what can I do even in this moment? When I get clear on what I need, then I can take action. The next thing that gaining clarity can do is it helps us have sustained action. When our goals reflect what we truly value and need, we stay motivated even through difficulty. Values-aligned effort feels less like willpower and more like who we are. The psychologist Carl Rogers, his work was based around this idea of congruence, that we have a need to be congruent with who we need to be at our deepest levels, at our core, and to live into that. So to have these values, and then every day take that step-by-step action. I thought I put that on the screen. I must not have. So sustained action. If you would like to read it, there you go. I like to have a visual. Sustained action. I often call sustained action. It's the courage in the little moments, or the marathon of the middle. Sometimes we can get started, but it's that marathon of the middle, the everyday. I'm going a little out of pocket here, but every day, I go through a list of values of who I want to be as a person. When it's all said and done, these are the values that I want to have. And don't get me wrong, they're not set in concrete. They have evolved over the years and been adapted. But it's these values that I want to have every day. And every day I go over the courage or the value of courage. And I say, how can I live with courage today? The interesting thing is, courage for me at this point in my life hasn't been saving someone from a burning building. It hasn't been some big, bold move. Courage to me, and when I reflect on how I lived for the day at the end of the day, I'll think about those values and how I put them into action. And I'll often say, I showed up with courage today by doing the little moments. I realized the bigger picture that this is the kind of person that I want to be, but then I had sustained action. It's like the beat of the song. And courage, as I have talked about before, it's associated with with our heart, with that heartbeat. When I think about the beat of the song, the pulse of the song, it's just moving the song along in the right way that it needs to. Not too fast so that it's callous, and not too slow that it's maybe cowardness, but that perfect golden mean, that sweet spot of courage, that steady beat. Now, the next thing that I think getting clear and seeing the bigger picture can help with both the big and the small is resilience. As Martin alluded to, life happens. Even when we're clear on what that's supposed to say moving towards. I typed this up late last night because I was doing double duty, helping with some staff training, and I must have not seen my typo. So even when we're moving towards what we think is good, setbacks, they still happen, right? Life happens. But remembering our why helps us bounce back. Our why, it can fuel the motivation. It can help us understand why we need to take a certain path. And then in those times when we have to create a new path, or there's construction ahead or a delay or whatever it might be, we get back on the path as we need to in the right timing. Aiming to see the big picture. It's not to create anxiety. I want to be careful of that. But it's to help us realize the kind of life that we want to live, how we want to show up. It can help us decide when we're facing 2 different paths, or 3 or 5 or 10, when it's all said and done, which path. And then in those moments when things might seem difficult, when we look at the picture and we can say, when it's all said and done, or what kind of person do I need to be? Even though it might get difficult to put that courage into action, it can help us do so. Before we close, I just want to give a little preview of next week. I'm really excited for next week because we're going to talk about vulnerability. It's one thing to realize that we have these needs. When we look at the sum total of our life and we look at what we truly need and what others need, it's one thing to realize that. But then I think it's another thing to actually accept it. And that's where we're going next week. We're going to talk about vulnerability and radical honesty with ourselves. And when we practice vulnerability with ourselves and say, Joe, this is what you really need. Other people are saying that you should take this path or do this, but you know yourself, and this is what you really need. And when you accept that, a lot of the research shows that that is actually the first step of courage. I'm excited to go there. But as for today, I return to just bringing awareness to what those needs are. And I want to return to the way that we started. So I'm going to ask you once again, alongside me, step into a moment of reflection and visualization. Settle in. You can close your eyes if you want. I want to invite you back to that scene, back to that funeral, Once again, we're not just focusing on the funeral to be morbid or to focus on death, but to focus on how we actually live. Picture yourself once more at the place where the service is being held. You're there. You notice the flowers again, their color, their fragrance. You hear the soft music playing in the background. It fills the space gently, the way that it did before. Look around at the faces of the people who've gathered. Family, friends, people from your work, your community. And now, as you sit there, I want you to ask yourself again, and not from a place of judgment, but from a place of true, radical, authentic love for yourself. When it's all said and done, what do I really want and need? Just hang on to that for a minute. Sit with that. And if you want to see the question again, it'll be on the screen. When it's all said and done, what do I really want and need? A few more seconds. As you come back to the space that we're all in, I bring our attention to a quote here. If one does not know to what port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. And we can aim to see the bigger picture. And sometimes that bigger picture, it's not even about time. Once again, who do we want to be in 10 years or at the end of our life? When we aim to see the bigger picture of the things that we need in our life in this moment, we have trouble doing that. It's harder to find the wind, that courage, that natural motivation. Us as a people, as I started out, we're on this path together. And I want for us, both as individuals and as a collective. And so it's also a question for West Hill. When it's all said and done, whether we continue meeting for 10 years or 50 or 100 years, whatever it is, who do we want to be when it's all said and done? And then may we take steps of courage together, both as that collective and as individuals. May we live with heart, may we live with love, and to do so, may we live with courage.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.